Carla, and welcome back to the studio. And thank you for joining me for another episode of Throwback Thursday. So, for this particular episode, I am going kind of like way back to the time when I first joined Stampin' Up, which was in October of 2013. Let me just kind of adjust this a little bit, make sure that things are kind of even and lined up, and just going to put my little leveler here on my phone just to make sure that we got things situated so it's all even and straight and we're not like at an angle or anything. So I think we're good. And let me just kind of straighten this out. What happens if I have this too close to my surface, every time I move my hands, the camera kind of focuses in and out and it kind of just bounces in and out. And I'm sure that that's probably annoying. I can see it on my laptop and I know that it can drive you a little bit batty seeing that, but I think that we're good on this. So, for this episode, like I said, I'm going like way back, and I am using the Snow Day stamp set. This is a red rubber clear because clear meant that you just put it on your stamps on a clear acrylic block. With these, at the time when they came out, they did have stickers for the back of them, but the issue that with those stickers was that at some point they really wouldn't stick to the block very well. You would have to clean them, make sure that your acrylic blocks are clean. But I found that they also worked really well when there was no sticker on them. And as long as I kind of lined up like any greetings kind of straight to the bit, the bottom edge of the block, I was able to still kind of stamp straight. And then there's also your stamp positioning tools that will help you as well. So with Snow Day, there is no punch to it that coordinates with it. There's no set of dies. It's just a standalone stamp set. Super duper cute. I do love the snowman stamp sets. One of the cards that I am making for you in this episode is actually a card that I made quite a few years ago. I believe it was in 2015 when I made it. And so I do have the picture of it. It's in my, I do have a Split Coast Stampers account under You've Got Carla. Just like You've Got Mail. Well, back at that time, yeah, You've Got Carla. And then I also have a picture of it on my Pinterest account. If you look under the folder or gallery of that's labeled Blue City Stamping Studio, I do have projects in there that I did make, and this is one of the cards. This card is in there as well. So I thought it would be kind of fun to kind of pull out those materials that I used for it and recreate the card. This time, there's actually dimensions. When I did the card originally, I don't have any dimensions at all written down for it, so it will now be cataloged in this particular hold on, this my thing is paused. Why did it pause? Okay, I think we good. We still alive? Okay, hold on a second, guys. My seems like my thing kind of paused. Okay, come on, what are you doing? Hold on. Want to make sure everything is working well. Is everything moving? Okay, yeah, we're good now. For some reason, the whole thing paused and I was wondering why the screen on my laptop was kind of going black. Okay, so now back to what I was saying. So now we're going to have some dimensions on this card. The other card too is something that I saw out there on Pinterest as well and kind of did my take with it as well. So I have a lot of my stamps. I think I'm pretty sure every stamp that I need for the projects, for the two projects that I am doing out on its block. So we should be good to go. So with the stamp set, as you saw, there's really only like this one greeting here that just says warm wishes twice in script. We're going to use that for our second card. But the first one, I am pulling in another really oldie. Back in 2013, Stampin' Up did do individual offerings of individual stamps, and they're very sizable. So, I mean, these were the little slips that were in the packaging, and these actually coordinated with dies. The one that I am using for my first card is this one called Magical Season. It says, "May the magical wonder of the season bring hope and peace and joy." So that's the one I'm going to be using with this. And again, those were like individual offerings. They weren't really, I don't think they were really in any catalog, but yeah, I ended up getting all those individual ones, and then to store it, I just put it in a case. And as a demo, we do have access to get the blank stamp case inserts to where we can actually type what the name of the stamp set is, like how many stamps are in it. And then I believe I just kind of took kind of like a snippet type program to go and take the images and put them on the cover of this. So yeah, just to kind of put everything together. All right, so for my first card, I have a piece of crumb cake that measures 8.5 by 5.5. It's scored at 4.25. Ahead of time, I did emboss um, the front panel of my card base. Let me bring up my my document that has all the dimensions on it. Something I should have done sooner before I went live. Come on, open up. Okay, there we go. So the the front of my card base, I had used again. This is an embossing folder from way back when, the Decorative Dots Textured Impressions embossing folder. Back when the packaging was the green and the brown color, and then when Sizzix was actually making our embossing folders and dies, and of course our what we have now, our Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine. Back then it was a big shot that Sizzix had, you know, made for specific, you know, the coloring and everything specifically for Stampin' Up. All right, so I embossed the front of my card base with that. I in addition to that, I have a piece of Coastal Cabana that measures 4 by 3 1/4. Let me make sure. Hold on, hold on a second. 4 and 3 1/4. Final answer. And then I have another piece of crumb cake. This measures 3 3/4 by 3. And then this little star right here. If you remember, a few years ago, we had some glimmer paper. This is the sparkle glimmer paper. And I die cut this star out using the circle card Thinlits. There is a little star die cut die that's in this kit. Now, again, I'm pulling everything in that I had back at the time when I first made this card. And so, of course, again, you can see the older packaging. And so I decided to use that star to die cut my nice glimmer star here. I don't know if you can see that really well. All right, so I'm going to take my card base and kind of line up my corners here and kind of hold it down, because when I run this through my Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine to emboss it, it does thin out the cardstock a little bit, so the front of it's like a little, you can see it's kind of like, feels a little, just a little thinner. But this will flatten out, as it's just kind of laying down for a little bit. Or you can always put like a book or maybe an acrylic block on top of it to kind of like have it lay flat. One of the things that I did on my first card, so all of this raised embossed area of this, what I did is I brought in some just regular white chalk. I do have a link for kind of like the same chalk that I have that's on Amazon, but I'm sure that you can get chalk cheaper probably in some of your local stores. So just regular white chalk. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of scrape just like the side of my chalk over those raised dots, so you can see it's kind of giving you the effect of snow. So I'm going to add that. Now what's going to happen as you're touching this, the chalk is going to come off of it. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to take kind of like a paper towel and I'm going to kind of rub it on here just to remove some of that excess. So the white dots are going to kind of, they're not going to be as bright white as what you're seeing right now. And so I just want to make sure I got all the spaces. And then of course in the middle there, it is going to be covered up. Okay, so I got my paper towel and I'm just going to lightly wipe, because what's going to happen, the chalk powder is going to kind of like get all over the place. So you can see that you can still see kind of like those dots on there, and they are white. We just got rid of some of that excess chalk. Okay, then we're going to bring in our piece here that we're going to do our stamping on. And so the colors I'm going to use for my stamping here is the Night of Navy. I'm going to use that for my greeting. So let's go ahead and do that. We'll do that first. I'll ink this up. Now I'm looking at the stamp and I see that like on this bottom edge here that it is straight on there. So I'll ink this up. And then I'm going to stamp this up near the top and in the middle. Press that down. Okay, so there's our greeting. And then we're going to do our snowman. So for this, I am bringing in my Whisper White ink pad. Now, the way these ink pads come, these are the foam pads. For Whisper White, it is craft. So the ink refill for Whisper White, which was what our white was called back at the time, the consistency of that ink is more like a white paint. So it is a little bit heavier. It does take a little bit longer to dry. For this, we're going to stamp our snowman with that. Let me get my scrap paper here, because we will be kind of stamping off a little bit on here. Now, the thing with the ink, and I'm going to bring in my snowman, is that, like I said, it does take a little bit longer for it to dry. So the other parts that we're going to do, where we're going to actually be stamping on, you know, the snowman itself, we are going to need it to be dry before we do that. And so I do have my heat tool here. And after I stamp this, we're going to dry it. So then that way I can stamp the face over on top of my snowman. So I am going to ink him up really, really well. Like I said, the ink on this is more of a consistency of like a white paint. And when you order this, the ink pad, it is uninked and you get a refill with it. So you would add your ink to it. So what I'm going to do is I'm not stamping the whole snowman on here. I just want the top part of them. And this one I'm stamping right here in the middle. And then I'm going to add like 2 more on either side of him. So press that down like so, because I really want that bold white. And then let's ink him up. We're going to concentrate more on the top part of him. And then we're going to stamp one right over here. Okay. And you can see I got it all over my paper here. And then let's stamp one more. Okay, and then this one, we'll put this one, have him come in like right over here like so. Okay, so let me set this aside for a second. I'll get this out of the way. And then to clean this, I do have a Stampin' scrub, but before I take this stamp to my Stampin' scrub, I do need to kind of wipe this off. So I am going to bring in, I got some wipes. These fragrance free, there's no alcohol in them, and these came from Costco. So these are nice and big, and they're more like a cloth like material. And so I'm going to kind of wipe this off, because if you go directly to your Stampin' scrub with it, then you're going to have like white paint on your thing. So I'm going to look to clean most of this off. So let me grab another one, because I really did ink this up really, really well. This cleaned off as much as I can. Okay, I got most of that off, and now let me bring in my Stampin' scrub and I'll get them all cleaned up and dried off like so. Okay, so we'll put that aside. We are going to stamp another full snowman on our next card as well. Okay, so now I want to take my heat tool, because you can see it's kind of shiny, so this is wet. So I'm going to bring in my heat tool, and I'm going to put this, turn it up on high, and when I go to dry this, I'm going to keep moving my heat tool, because I don't want anything to burn. Now the other thing you could do is you could add like white embossing powder on this. However, you won't be able to stamp your face, or the smile actually, on your snowman, because that ink will just like wipe right off. Look at the back of it. Let's see. That's pink. We're good. No ink is getting on my fingers. Okay, so let me kind of cool this off a bit. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is, again, I'm using the same colors that I used when I originally made it. So at the time we had Tangerine Tango. This was, I think, was Tangerine Tango an in color, or maybe it was part of one of the collections at one time. I don't see in color on here. That's why I'm now questioning if it wasn't in color. So there is a stamp that has the little carrot nose here. And so I'm going to ink this up. And then I know that there's going to be a little bit of some excess rubber from the image itself to the end. So I'm going to keep that in mind when I go to stamp it down. And I'm going to stamp it straight up on top of this snowman, because this is the illusion that our snowmen are looking up. And then this one will go in this direction. And then this one will go over here, like so. Okay, let's close this up. And then I'm going to bring in my Memento Tuxedo Black ink. Now, this isn't the original packaging that it comes in. It's actually one of these, the Whisper White pads. Again, like I said, they come uninked. So I found that the Memento stamps a lot darker and more crisper when it's on a foam pad rather than the felt pad that the original packaging comes in. So I'm going to bring in the face. Now what I want to do is I just want to ink up the smile. I don't want to ink up the eyes. So I am going to kind of look at where I'm stamping. Okay, got a little bit on, a little bit more on this side. Okay, so you can see I just have the mouth part. And then I'll come in and stamp that down. And again, you want this white ink to be dry because then your black ink won't stamp very well. So again, I just want to ink up the mouth part. I don't want the eyes. And then I'm going to come over to this one, do the same thing. Okay. And then one more time. Now it's going to take a little bit too for this to dry because it's like, this is like a coating. So you can take your heat tool to it again to kind of like just dry that black ink so it doesn't smear. All right, so let me put that over there. Let me bring in my heat tool really quick. Make sure that's not shiny. That's good. The ink doesn't look shiny, so that's how I know that it's dry. Okay, so then I'm going to take this. I'm going to grab my Stampin' Seal and add some in the back of this. Of course, I got some off of the edge. Okay, and then let's add, because my cardstock's a little bit warped from the heat, I'm going to add a little extra to it around the edges, and then we'll center that on our Coastal Cabana layer, like so. Press that down. Okay, and then we'll just, no dimensionals on this one. I'll take this panel now and put this on the center of my card like so. And let's see, right about, oops, right there. Make sure it's straight. Press that down. And then let's bring in our little star. And for this, I'm going to bring in my liquid glue for this. And I'm going to add a little bit to the back. And then I'll put that star right up here in that corner like so. Press that down. Make sure that it's stuck. Okay, we'll close up our glue, and there's our first card. So on the original card, I did not put like any rhinestones or anything like that on it. I just kind of like left it at that. So a very simple card. It goes together fairly quick. I mean, what you may want to do if this is a card that you would want to mass produce, I would suggest, cut all your pieces first, and then you can kind of do like an assembly line type of thing. You can stamp your crumb cake panel. Then you can kind of just let it sit and let it dry, like say overnight. But if you want to keep going with it quicker, just take your heat tool, but just be mindful, don't hold the heat tool like really close and just in one spot. Keep moving your heat tool around so that way you don't burn it. And you can see that none of that, it's really the chocolate you're seeing on my finger, but the ink is dry. So super cute. Love, 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 love these snowmen. So there's my first card. Now let me bring in for the second card. Again, this, I did find this on Pinterest, and I did change it up just a little bit. Used kind of like the same paper, but for the cherry cobbler strip, they used what do you call, washi tape. Well, washi tape, I don't have the washi tape, so uh, so yeah, I improvised and used some designer series paper. Okay, so for this one, my card base is Old Olive 8.5 by 5.5, scored at 4.25. I have a piece of crumb cake that measures 5.25 by 4. I then have a piece, this is the Season of Style Designer Series pack. Now, in this particular holiday mini, this is from 2013. They offered this in a designer series paper stack. So you had, there were like 4 different patterns. So you had a whole lot of sheets that had the pattern of the dots, and then the other side had the cherry cobbler and white stripes, and then the other pattern was this zigzag here, and then the other side of that are the crumb cake with the white dots. So this could be an option as well. You can take this and put it on your card base on here. The original one that I did see did use this paper, so you could use this as well instead of embossing and using the chalk on there. But I kind of like the softness of the chalk on there. So they offered the designer series paper stack. These were sized 4.5 by 6.5. So these were geared more for doing for your card fronts. They also offer 12 by 12 designer series paper with these patterns plus more as well. So for this piece, again, it's Season of Style Designer Series paper stack. This one measures 5.25 by 2.25. And then this designer series paper, this is one of the collect out from the Regals 6 by 6 designer series paper. So in the color collections you get a total of 4 sheets of each of the colors that are in that color collection. So in the Regals you have Blueberry Bushel, Cajun Craze, Cherry Cobbler, Crushed Curry, Garden Green, Gorgeous Grape, Old Olive, Pretty Peacock, Real Red, and Shaded Spruce. So this is Cherry Cobbler, and this piece measures 5.25 by 5/8. So again, the original person that did it, they had used washi tape that was Cherry Cobbler that had the dots on it. I don't have that, so I improvised and I used the designer series paper. Then I have a piece of early espresso. This measures 4 by 3. And then I have a piece of crumb cake that measures 3 3/4 by 2 3/4. All right, so I'm going to start off. I'm going to fold and burnish my card base. Bone folder. Okay, set that aside for a moment. Then I'm going to take my liquid glue. We're going to adhere our designer series paper onto our crumb cake piece. So let me add some glue. Now you can use seal too, but I find that when I'm adhering to a whole a large piece of cardstock, sometimes you may not get it lined up right, and that seal is really going to stick. So by using the liquid glue, it keeps it wet a little bit longer, and I'm able to then like move my paper to kind of line it up. And then once it's all lined up like so, I'm going to hold this end and I'm just going to flatten this out. Okay, then I'm going to take this little strip here of my other designer series paper in the Cherry Cobbler color, and I'm going to put that right up against that piece. I'm going to kind of line that up. Okay. All right. So we got that. A little sticky on there. All right, so then I am going to stamp my greeting, and I'm also going to stamp, there's a little snowflake in the stamp set, so we're going to stamp a white snowflake on this piece. And then I'm also going to do my wavy little greeting from the set that says Warm Wishes. So it's Warm Wishes twice on that. I am going to stamp the greeting in Early Espresso ink. Okay, make sure I got it the right way. Move that out of the way. Make this up really well. Getting the ends really well, but the middle not so much. Okay, then I'm going to come in and I'm going to go more towards the top here. And I want to stamp that right there because that panel that I stamped of the early espresso and the crumb cake is going to kind of go across the paper and a little bit into the crumb cake part of this. And so I want it to be over more towards that end of the cardstock. All right, and then let me get my white and get my snowflake. And I'm going to stamp that right over here. Okay, now I'm going to kind of set this aside. I am stamping another snowman, so when I go to heat dry this, I'll dry this at the same time. So let me set that aside, and then let me bring in my paper again. This one has a lot of ink on it, so let me grab another piece of scrap paper. So then that way we don't get white ink all over everything. And I'll actually take that paper and we'll throw that away. Okay, so then let me bring in my piece of crumb cake. Actually, I'm not going to be stamping off on this, so I'll be good. So I'm going to ink this all up. This time we're going to stamp our entire snowman. I did ink this up really, really well. So I have a good white solid snowman. All right, and then I'm going to put him kind of like right here. I really didn't need the scrap paper because I'm not stamping off the cardstock. Okay, so there's our snowman. We'll set that block aside and we'll close up our white ink. All right, now I need to dry this because I will be stamping on top of this. So let me get my heat tool and get this dry. Okay, let me get this piece. I think I got it. Just want to make sure that's all dry so I don't smear it. All right, so now get that out of the way, and now we're going to stamp all of our other elements onto our snowman. So I am going to bring in Cherry Cobbler ink. Cherry Cobbler, I will say, has to be my favorite red at what Stampin' Up! Has. I just think Cherry Cobbler, this dark red, is just that paired with, what color? Like Mossy Meadow is like a perfect red-green Christmas combination. I do like using both of those colors together. So there is this little hat that's in the set, and I'm inking that up. And then I'm going to make sure I'm in the camera. And again, I see that there's that little bit of that edge of the rubber. So I'm going to come down just a little bit. Okay, so there's our hat. And then there is a scarf. Okay, and then I'm going to come right across here like so. Okay. And then what do we got next? We're done with this now. Let's bring in Early Espresso. And we have his arms. Okay, we're going to put one right over here. And then we'll give him another one right over here. Okay, and then I do need to clean the face because that's got black ink. We're going to use Early Espresso for all our dark. Okay. All right, so the face. So this time we're inking up the whole face. And then stamp his face. Oh, I caught some of that. I don't know how to get that off. Shoot. I messed that up. How do I fix that? How do I fix it? Can I go over with a little bit of white from the chalk, maybe? Will that help? Okay, it's gonna have to be what it is. I'll find some way to fix it. Maybe I have a chalk marker or something I can go over that to fix that. Okay, and then there's also these buttons. So I'll ink that up. Make sure I got it the right way. And then we'll put these right here. Okay, so we got that. Yeah, I'll just take a little chalk marker and just kind of go over that. It's not too noticeable. Now I'm going to take my paper towel and I'm just going to put that on top and just hold it down. I'm not going to, rub it on here because I just want to make sure that that Early Espresso ink that I have on top of that white is fully dry. You can see there's just a little bit that came on there. All right, so now I'm going to take this and I'm going to adhere this to my piece of Early Espresso. Center that like so. Okay. And then I'm going to take this piece here. We're going to adhere this to our card base. Okay. And kind of center that. Okay, and then our panel with our snowman, we're going to pop that up. So I'm going to bring in my Stampin' Dimensionals. And we're going to put, instead of going all the way to the very corner, I'm going to come in a little bit with them. Okay. Let's these off. All right, and then we're going to center this. Well, not quite center it, but I'm going to place this panel right here. Okay, so there is the second card. Super cute. Really do like this snowman. I will fix that. But I got the hat on there perfectly. No gaps or anything, but yeah, so there's the other one. So let me bring in the first one that we made. So this is a case for from something that I did way back. I'm pretty sure that it was like back in 2015. At the time after I had done it, I took a picture of it and I uploaded it to my gallery out there on Split Coast Stampers. That's a community stampers website. Originally, it was just for like Stampin' Up demonstrators, and all the product was Stampin' Up. And it's kind of gone a little bit further. There's a lot of other stamp companies that are out on that website as well. And just a lot of inspiration. So, like with the Stampin' Up sets, they do have their gallery set up, like say A to D, or it's all alphabetized, and then the name of the stamp sets. When you click on it, you will, and I know that I'm not straight. I'm looking in my camera and whoa, I am definitely not straight. I just looked at the screen and it's like I am so far off it ain't even funny. Okay, so but they still look good, right? Okay, so thank you so much everyone for stopping by and watching my this episode of Throwback Thursday featuring the Snow Day stamp set. Now, I believe that was it last year we had I can't remember the name of the suite. It may have been like Snowy Season, I think. It had like a penguin in there and it had snowmen, but I think the stamp set itself was called Snowy Day. And where did my stamp set go? Yeah, right over there. Yeah, Snow Day actually is what I think it's called. So but yeah, it's a different stamp set. This one came out back in 2013. And yeah, I just really like how these came out. I think they're super duper cute. Great inspiration if you're working on your Christmas cards. Now, if you don't have this stamp set, you can easily duplicate these cards using the same layout and just use sets that you may have. You may have, usually like every year, Stampin' Up! Will come out with a stamp set that will have there'll be at least one that has a snowman on it. So you can use that snowman instead and kind of do something very, very similar to this, and just change it up with whatever designer series paper that you may have in any embossing folder, whatever you may have in your stash. So if you like the projects, please give the video a thumbs up. All likes, comments, shares, subscriptions, that all really helps with the YouTube algorithm and it gets my videos out there for other paper crafters. Also, it not only helps grow this channel, but it also helps me in growing my Stampin' Up! Business as well. And all of that, I truly, truly appreciate it. Also, in the description, there are a few links that are in there. One of them that I really want to make mention of is I do have a monthly newsletter. I typically send that out. It's usually around the first Tuesday of the month. Stampin' Up! Comes out in every month, two to three new kit collections in that you will find in the online store. So I like to include in my newsletter pictures of those new kits, descriptions, and all that. I also have on there my whole video schedule for the month. So up front, you will see all the stamp sets or bundles or suites that I will be using for my Throwback Thursdays, for my Friday Night Lives. Also, my monthly Christmas card inspiration. I always have those like the first of the month throughout the year, and I create two fairly simple, duplicatable Christmas cards to kind of give you some inspiration if you want to make your cards throughout the year. I also do my paper pumpkin when I get it in. I do an unboxing and I create one of each of the projects that are in that kit. As a matter of fact, just this past Sunday, I did get my kit in the mail, so I did put the video out for that one. That one's called Wrapped in Cheer. So that one's out there. So tomorrow night, I will be going live here in the studio at 7 p.m. Central Time. I will be featuring the Peaceful Garden Suite. This is the suite in our holiday mini that's got like all the designer series paper has all the blues in it. There's some blue glimmer paper, and it also has those really cool dove dyes in it as well. So I'm going to be featuring that tomorrow night. What I also do on my Friday Night Lives, I do a wheel of names. I do a drawing where you could win one of the cards that I make that night. And it doesn't matter where you live in the world, I can mail cards anywhere. It's just Stampin' Up! Product that I can't send into different markets, only here in the US. So we do have a really fun bunch of ladies and sometimes a guy join us in the chat, and it's just a wonderful experience. We all have fun and hope that maybe you can join us. So if you subscribe, or if you're kind of hesitant, take a peek on what I have out there. I have, including this video, like there's 312 videos out there. I have playlists of all my Friday Night Lives that actually go all the way back to January 26th of 2024. And then there's Throwback Thursdays. Those actually go back to like September of 2023. So there's a lot of videos out there using a whole lot of different products. So if you need any inspiration, go ahead and check that out. If you like what you see, think about subscribing and then hit that little notification bell. It'll let you know when I'm going live and when I've posted a new video. So until the next time, everybody, wherever you are in the world, stay warm or stay cool, but please be safe and everyone have a blessed one, and I will see you later. Bye bye.